Hey everybody, welcome back from your break. We're going to go ahead and jump right on in to our math because I know you got a lot of assignments you're going to be doing, so we're just going to get straight to work. We are coming to complex numbers, and our first lesson is titled The Complex Number Plane, and the plane we know means a graph, and you'll see in the top right corner here where it says it has to be listed as complex. We know that on a graph, we can usually only graph x and y, but a complex number is really going to show depth or maybe not quite 3D, but it's just there's another um, um, number that's having to be graphed. So if it's a complex number, you have to write it over the top of the graph so that someone will know looking at it that this is not a flat object that we're talking about. We're talking about something with curves and um, rising up and going down. So as a review, we saw that back when we were doing the quadratic formula, and we come up with negative roots, and there are no negative roots. So the mathematician Gauss, he came up with not necessarily a good term or a term that he was not happy with, which is imaginary, because it makes it seem like it's not a number that could even be useful. The true term for it would be to call it a lateral number. So it's a complex number that has an imaginary number in it, so where would we use it? Your DNA, the protein in your DNA, used when they are charting the protein that's in your DNA, they use complex numbers. For the space shuttle, when they are having problems with navigating, okay, when they're out in space, they use complex numbers. Complex numbers are written in this form: a plus bi. A would be the real part, bi being the imaginary. So here's a couple examples here. 3 plus 2i. 3 is the real part, 2i is the imaginary part. 1 plus 0i, 1 being the real part, and then 0i being the imaginary part. Also, too, before we get any further, remember that I is equal to the square of negative 1. That's why we call it imaginary. There is no square of negative 1. And then I squared, which is equal to negative 1. So that's going to be a big part of this chapter right here. I squared is equal to negative 1. But of course, we're going to start out very basic and really just getting used to seeing it. So on page 406 in exercise A, you'll see where it says to write each number as a complex number. So I'm not going to do all of these just because it's really just, just basic, getting you used to writing them. So number 1, they give you 5. And if I'm going to write that as an imaginary number or a complex number, it will be 5 plus 0i. I put 0 just because, they're not telling you specifically to put what to put, so you can just put 0. Number 2 is 1/2. So 1/2 plus 0i. So on your worksheet, if you're adding the imaginary part, just use 0. Number 4, we have a decimal. Same thing, 0.5 plus 0i. Number 5, they give you the imaginary part this time, 3.5i. So you just add the real part, and like I said, you can use 0. So 0 plus 3.5i. So that exercise is really just getting you used to saying, okay, here's my real part, here is my imaginary part. Exercise B, they have a graph labeled with points, and what you're going to be doing is reading that graph. Okay, so I Don't really have a graph that you can see on this board here. Don't really have a lot of space. So hopefully you're looking at exercise B in your book on page 407 and you see the graph to the right. So number 11 has point A. So if you go to your graph and find point A, you'll see that it goes down to -3 on the X, and it goes to 1 on the Y. So that would be -3 plus 1I. So we got to put that I because it is a complex number. All right, number 12 is point B. So find B. It does not go left or right, so that means X is 0. But it goes up to 3, so 0 plus 3I. Number 13, C. C, you'll go down X to 3. And you go up to 2 on the Y, so 2I. Number 14, D. So you're going to go left on the X. D is on -2. And it doesn't go up or down, so 0I. So you still have X and Y, but since we're accounting for that I on the complex number, we're writing it as a 2-part or a complex number. Number 15, E. So we find E on our chart, and it goes to -2 on the X, and it goes to -5 on the Y, so -5I. So be sure to watch your signs, it will make a difference. F. F does not go left or right on the X, so it's 0, and it goes down to -1. -1I. Number 17, G, goes to 3 on the X and -2 on the Y, -2I. Number 18, H. So if you go to H is 2, go down to 2 on the X, and then come down to -4 on the Y. So -4I. So on the worksheet, they're going to give you the point, and you're just going to, they're going to give you the label for the point, and you have to write the coordinates. So you'll be having either plus or minus. It just depends on if it's negative or positive, and be sure to include the I for the imaginary number. On exercise C of page 407, we're not going to do that one. It's just a reverse of B. So they give you the points and you would graph it and label it. So, but it's not on the worksheet, so we're not going to spend time on working on that part. So be sure just to get used to writing a complex number and how to list one or how to read one on a complex plane. If you have any questions, you can contact me through Edmodo, or just look for me, see if my icon is lit up on Zoom, and you can ask questions.